Colonel Chapman. Good morning, team.
Good morning. Good morning, team.
Good morning, yes.
Well, we're here, and it's just us this morning. And as we end as we end the Black History Month and start March with a whole year of Black History.
365.
Yes, this is just the national recognition of it, but we celebrate it all year round. But anyway, we're here today. We want to have a little discussion between ourselves about Black history and what it means for us. And what I wanted to do first, I wanted to start off locally, and I wanted to ask my co-host, as we look at, and I'll go right into it, we look at our city council now, and we look at the composition of it. We have 6 Black council persons and 1 white, total of 7, and that's how many Portsmouth City Council is chartered to have. I just wanted to ask you, so far, we have a little ways to go with this competition. So far, do you think our communities have benefited from having
But before we start,
our council?
let's put the disclaimer out before we go to Facebook jail. And the views listed on this program or stated on this program are the host, and if we had a guest, it would be of a guest and not of the radio station. So let's get that out of the way. So Lee, you want me to go first, or you want to hit it?
Please
first?
go first, please.
Okay, so I was talking to Leah earlier, we were discussing it, and for one instance, and this is just one thing, I drove by the new casino coming up in the old Cavalier Manor section where Moffett High Elementary used to be and stuff like that. Just the fact that this council against the owners of the new casino okey-doked them for not building a hotel in addition to that casino is a slap in the face, and actually it's criminal for them to just run over and roughshod over this city council. This is the most thankless city council I've ever seen in my lifetime. I don't know what they're out there for. And what they stand for. I really don't. They don't run programs. Yeah.
Continue.
And I look online and I see where we have this dysfunction with with what's his name, the vice mayor, DeAndre, and my own personal opinion. Why is he there? What has he done? And what's he doing? He should be on the streets of Portsmouth, but not in official or in charge or helping and to make decisions for other people when he can't even make decisions for himself. He's not a good representative for the city. Not a good city. And I'm singling him out today because he's on my mind.
Okay, that was a hard question. I knew it was going to be a hard question. Leah, do you want to chime in?
It's interesting. That's all I have to say. All I have to say is that I was speaking to an elderly lady recently, and she was saying how thrilled she was at having been able to get all of those Blacks on the city council, but then she's kind of questioning it now. She said that she has a feeling that there needs to be some diversity on there because there's no cohesiveness there at all, and they don't seem to be working towards one goal. I just can't understand what's taking place. You have too much divisions, too many little like you used to have in the school. You have your little what do you call it? Your little this little pack of girls over here, this little pack of girls over here, but no one is working for the benefit of the city. Putting self behind them and just thinking about what does this city need? How can we work to make this city better? We got a lot of problems going on in Portsmouth now. You got a lot of killings going on in Portsmouth now. Taxes are ridiculous in Portsmouth. And I just don't see anyone really moving in the direction in which they need to move to make the city a better place to live.
And let me chime in, Colonel. First thing, my understanding of the casino thing that you mentioned, Colonel, for the first thing, the negotiations were really done by the previous council and locked in by them. And what I understand about it, it was from the beginning, it was going to be phases, and the hotel wasn't part of the first phase. And one of the reasons was because they would have to gauge what star of hotel they would have to put there. Now, that's my understanding of it. It might be different, and maybe the previous council should have pushed to have it all come at the same time, but that was the negotiation they made in the beginning. And this council now probably just has to go along with what was contracted by the previous council. And what I would say about, I still think it's time for the council to do something for our communities, the Black communities. And I always said it's an opportunity with that many Black council persons on there to really serve the whole city, but get some things done that's been overlooked in our neighborhoods for years because they have the power. What disturbs me and what the both of you said, how it seems like it's a division there. It's a us against them thing. And it's always been like that way with council in a way where whoever has the 4 votes, and it's always that's how you get things done. But I just don't like it, and I've said this before, when it's the same group doing the same things on every issue, so that looks like a clique, and
it looks like Congress is what it looks like.
Right.
The Republicans are not going to vote on anything that the Democrats bring forth. And it seems to be the same thing with council. If one group brings something forth, the other group is not going to vote for it, regardless as to what it is.
Yes.
So, which really does not benefit the city as a whole. It looks like no one is looking at the needs of the city. Everybody's looking at their own little pet projects. And this city is in such shape now that we have to get beyond our pet projects. And we have to get to the point of realizing, what do we need to do to make Portsmouth a better place to live? Right now, I'm talking to people who tell me they wouldn't dream of moving into Portsmouth. One, because of the crime. And, there's just fear. Just total fear about being here. I look at the fact of my brother's church in downtown Portsmouth has been broken into at least 3 times this month.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get any resolve for anything like that. You get no resolve from that at all.
Yeah.
I just don't, I know that we're short on police officers. I don't know what we do to resolve that. For one thing, Portsmouth does not pay the amounts that the adjacent cities are paying for their law enforcement or their sheriff staff or their police staff. And I know for one thing with the sheriff's office, because the pay is not on par with other cities, we tend to get people that we train, and then once they train, then they leave us and they go to a city that's paying more money. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know where they begin to bring this thing to a point where we can keep good folks in the city of Portsmouth. We can't keep good folks in the city of Portsmouth for some reason.
Well, Leah, there's a couple things that and I'll put a litany out there, but I'll start at my first one. Slim, you talked about 6-to-1 ratio. My African Americans versus one white person on the city council. I go back to the days, or the quote from Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood said, when Big Daddy Bush won, nominated Clarence Thomas to the bench to fill his seat. And he told him right off the top, saying there is no difference between a white snake and a black snake.
He did say that.
He did say that. And so you
that.
have the same thing going on with our present city council, but you mix in that some of them don't have the bandwidth to be there. So, and so you can read in what I'm talking, the meaning of bandwidth to do that. And going back, point number 2, you talk about the previous city council and putting a phase-in program for the hotel. You have the power, even though you have the majority of the city council has not changed over. So you've only changed over a couple of them. So you change those permits. You play dirty or you play the games with like other city councils that do. You build this, or all of a sudden you yank your permit. There's things you could do to force this issue to get this hotel up there, because you really needed a hotel, because it's a big generator for tax dollars to come in and for jobs and everything. And so I think that when all's said and done, you're not going to see the minorities represented in the employment also, and the tax dollars aren't going to flow back into the city like they said, because I believe the whole thing is going to be a net negative to the region here. So, and to point 3, to address what Leo's saying about the shortage of police officers, yes, that is a question of a debate on how many police officers you need, how many of them you have sitting behind a desk not doing nothing, and not sitting in the car riding around giving speeding tickets, or not in the neighborhoods doing what we call community policing. As far as training and them leaving because of for higher pay, you have retention bonuses, and you have in your employment contract, if I train you, you have to be here for so long. It's the same thing that the military do. When I send you to graduate school, I owe the military another 6 years of service.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing you do. If I train you to be a police officer, or I train you to be a firefighter who is unrepresented, or in both of those, especially in the fire department, we're underrepresented as far as looking like the city, because the hiring processes aren't there, and the policies are there not to to keep the numbers like they are. I hire you, and you have to stay here for another, say, 10 years. And if you leave, you owe the city for this pay, and you owe me $100,000. You'll say $50,000, $75,000 that you're stuck with, and you sue them for that. They ain't going to go nowhere until then. Simple solutions. Simple. But everybody else does that, but not all, but we won't discuss that because in our city council, because we don't have the bandwidth to have this, honest discussions.
Yeah, we'll probably move on to something else, but I beg to differ with you, Colonel, on the contract of the, you're looking at the contract that was done by the previous, you can compare it to the tunnel contract that was done by a previous administration, and the next administration couldn't really do anything about that without possibly being sued in that contract. Hopefully they have some safeguards in there that they can get back at the company if they don't do certain things that they were supposed to do. But as far as the phase-in thing, I think the city looked at it, the new council looked at it, and the administration looked at what they could do to sort of speed up that process. But, if you want to get sued, and everybody's suing us, you have to sort of look at that. And now, if that time frame that they have within 2 years, they said, then that might be a different story that they can say that they could hold them accountable for that. But and the police department, I think it's an unfair assessment saying someone might be sitting behind the desk door. You know, those desks have to be filled. I mean, whether you have a full complement of the police department or just a few, certain desk duties that just have to be done. And maybe, they could bring in civilians to do them, but certain things have to be done. So hopefully, you know, we have some more time left with this council. And I'm not trying to jump on their side, but that's who we have right now. And hopefully they'll see some of the things you said, Colonel, as well as you, Leah, about the people you talk to. All of us heard people telling us, you know, they don't want to come to Portsmouth, or they would leave if they could. And, you know, okay, as far as the shooting, where you gonna go to Norfolk? You're gonna be safe there. You're gonna go to Hampton and Newport News, be safer there, or even Virginia Beach.
But
And
let
be
me ask you a question. I don't have an understanding of it, and I need to do more research on it. What is this new device that they have? Is it in Norfolk where bullets, they can determine where bullets? I can't. Do you know what I'm talking about?
like the shot detector.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, they triangulate the sound.
Uh-huh.
And they can tell you and generalize where the shots came from. And it's that new technology out there. But if I rob a store or I'm shooting out there, by the time the police get there,
Then you're gone. You're gone.
gone.
Yeah. Okay. I just needed some clarification on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder about that too, Leah, because I've heard the reports and say we need this, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And they say that it will help them, you know, sort of tune in on the crime as it happens. But I, just like Colonel said, even then, by the time you get there, if you're downtown and you detect it in Churchland, by the time you get there, you know, I don't know. It might work. They said it works in other cities, but, you know, I would have to see it. But, you know, that's a lot of money to be spent.
Mm-hmm.
That. And before we go to some, go ahead, Colonel.
Yeah. So I'm shooting up some house or whatever. And by the time they get there, I'm gone. Or I put my weapon away and I blend in back in the crowd. I am gone. So that technology only gives me a general idea where the shots came from. It doesn't tell me who, without any kind of monitoring equipment that gives me a visual on where and when, and for that. So basically, it's new technology, yes, but you have to look at the study. So what has it done for, you know?
George Smith just said that 13 News is going to talk about that system tonight. So I guess we need to listen to it to see exactly what the system is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to have more information than we have.
Exactly.
And before we go on to talk something else in the state or national news, I wanted to talk about in the last council meeting, and it's been a lot of talk about, because they're going to spend $400,000 on another disparity study, which they need. One problem I have with it, one thing, the first one cost $200,000, and now it's $400,000. And the first one, they say you have to have it every 5 to 7 years anyway. But the first one, when they did it, and you have to have it for legal reasons, you know, but then you have to follow up with a program. We never got the program. You remember we had the young lady on, we had Ms. Pennell on talking about, you know, what she wanted to do now, but it's right at the end of the time where they have to do another study in order for the program to even mean anything. You know, you have to have that study to back up your program, and you have to renew it every so often. But it was never, when they spent the money for the disparity study when during the Ken Wright administration, it was never a program put together, which, you know, would have already been in place. And now they have to spend another $400,000 for the study. and then put a plan in place, which should have been already in place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you feel about that. And a lot of citizens are really leery. I believe we need it. We need to have that study, but that cost getting me, over 5 years, it's going up $200,000 more. And could someone else have done it cheaper? They said that was the lowest one. That's what they said, the lowest bid. I would like to see the rest of the bids.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about that? That money being spent, because we as African Americans know that study we need to have that study within the city in order for us to even put a program together.
Did they
Legally.
disclose the other bids, or were we just told that this was the cheapest bid?
We were just told that was the cheapest
So we
bid.
don't know what the others bid on the project.
Now, I guess you could do one of them. You could get the information
Public
if you want.
information.
Yeah.
Yes.
So before I go into this, let me say, talk to the folks out there in Electron Land. And if you like what you're hearing, and you're only going to hear it here at this during this show, we need your help. Since Slim talked about this $400,000, we also need your help to keep doing what we're doing. So if you'd like to send or if you can send an honorarium or a donation to Portsmouth Coffee Talk, P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707, so that we can continue enlightening our region and also to the world of the good things that are happening in here in Portsmouth, and so we can keep this message coming out. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, my view on this 400,000, I'm always skeptical when they spend that kind of money on a study that just like in graduate school, it will lie in state in whatever library they put it in, and there's no action plan with that. And then two is, I'd like to see the connections of who's doing it and who has the connections to what city council member is championing this particular study, to see if there's any connection there. Three is, we have I'll use Norfolk State University is right across the water here. You could champion their graduate school in political science or urban studies over there and say, okay, Dean such and such, I'm going to pay you $100,000 to get a couple, to do a study and turn your graduate students over there, and they could do it probably a much better job and a much thorough job than whoever you've subcontracted this out for $400,000. And I could let somebody do it like a Norfolk State that's going to do a much better job. And that's my view on that. And you take out all the nepotism that's probably in this $400,000 bid that you got here.
Yeah, I always advocated for using our college and universities for their abilities to come up to do some of these studies, and it's a two-way street on that. It will help the city, and then it would help those students, be on their resume coming out that they had done a study for this city and that city and things like that.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
And we are surrounded by too many higher educational facilities who would be able to handle this project. I feel that they could adequately handle the project.
Yeah, and we talked about that, and I've yet to see anybody even, sort of seriously look into that. You can look at the people we brought on here, that's connected with the Norfolk State that they have, and they said they are open. They just come to them, and they'll put together, and they're supervised by experts, the same kind of experts you might see in the corporate world. So I guess, down the road, hopefully, they will see the light and at least include them in there, even if they don't pick them, include them in there and sort of, I'm sure it'll be a savings to the city. I know we need to study that $400,000 from $200,000 the first time. And it's the same company. It's the same company.
So
From
this
5
company,
years.
yeah, this company that you're talking about is not headquartered here. Am I correct? So
No.
they are going to come in from an out of town company that I've already got connections from outside. Yeah, I know we're getting ready. And then they're going to come here and use publicly available information that they're just going to regurgitate that and put it back into a cut and paste into a project, into a paper to give back to the city council will bless it off.
Yeah, and that's true. And that's true for most.
It doesn't make sense.
For most of the studies we do, but unfortunately, that's one of those roadblocks they're given for this disparity study. It has to be done the way it's done. And that comes from the state or the national or the government, that it has to be done that way.
It has to be completed, but not that way. It's not.
Not that it has to be, not that way. You're right, but it has to be done.
It has to be done. Right.
In order for you to put together a program that will be recognized by. So
yes.
We'll see how that's going. And let me say right now, we're approaching the 7 o'clock hour where we'll be leaving the radio. And we want to thank all the listeners on WGPL 1350 AM for tuning in this morning. And please join us next week as we start into March, and we will be honoring women for Women's History Month. So every Monday of the month. So just tune in and watch our Facebook page to see who our guest will be. So thank you. Leah, did you want to tune in on that before we sort of switch it to?
Yeah, well, I'm excited about Women in History Month. And I also want to suggest to those who are on Facebook Live or on the radio, if there is some woman who you would like to have or to hear more about or to honor during Women in History Month, please let us know so that we can make that contact. And we will do our best to try to get them on.
Great.
Okay.
So Slim, I still think, and I hate to reiterate, yes, we need a different way of doing business. We can't keep doing the same way we've done that, because the city is stuck in yesterday's land. And yes, you're correct. By charter, they have to do the study every so often, but how you get the charter done, the study done is an open book.
Yeah, and also having the study done and having no follow-up program.
Yeah, you got to have a program.
That's really where the money is wasted.
Yes.
Because study is done so you can put together a program and you can offer the women and minority contractors an opportunity to bid, like everybody else, equally to everybody else. Yeah. And that program has to be in place, and that was never put in place. And not saying that they haven't put out some contracts for people, but just like the Ms. Purnell that came on and showed her vision of a plan, and hopefully something like she's planning, once they spend this money on this contract, that they will implement it right away or put something out there right away. So at least some of the costs will be, it'll be worth some of the costs they put out there. If you're going to spend that money, you might as well follow up with what's next, which is putting together a plan or to accommodate what it's supposed to do. So.
Well, since it's coming.
Go ahead,
James. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, well, what about state? Get into the state, we could talk all day, but
you hurt my heart today. I thought we were going to talk about Black history, but anyway.
Well, Well, let's circle
No,
back in the
no,
Black
go
history.
ahead with the state, James. Go ahead with the
No,
state.
I just got into
That's
that political thing,
that's
and we can save
another
the
challenge
politics.
there. I
But the
think
Black
back,
history. Go
huh?
ahead.
I think back
Go ahead,
to
babe.
1997, when I went to Africa and was told that I needed to come back home to teach my children their history. I never would have thought that we would be in 2022 and leadership is trying to remove us from history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trying to remove us from history, and we're heading back to a position where community groups are going to have to teach our children, because at the rate they're going, they're not going to get, even though Black history is American history. Black history is American history. 4 decades of suffering and pain should be a part of the history. But now they want to remove that history, and it just seems like we're just going backwards as opposed to going forward.
You know what gets lost in all of that, Leah? You know, with the efforts trying to keep with the critical race theory.
Yes, which
debacle
doesn't exist
with them trying to-
exist on a public school level.
Right. When they're trying to keep out the history of slavery, you know, our history starts way before slavery.
Way before slavery.
And that's going to be affected too. And that's not something that's going to insult anybody. Our history, our kids, our young folks needs to know our origins, as well as what happened during slavery. Also, our beginnings.
But now,
suffer because of them trying to stop and take all these books and that might go beyond slavery or before slavery, and they just ban them because it's a book about Black history, but not necessarily about slavery.
Well, this whole issue on CRT theory is a made up issue to energize the GOP to bring them out to the election booth, and they will vote. And it's the same thing when they had the caravans that were coming up from South America to come through Mexico that was never there. And that never happened. It's just another ginned up thing by the Confederates to separate and gin up their population to come out and vote. And everything is pointing to the 2022 for the midterms and 2024 with the rise or the comeback for the orange man, Mr. Trump. And so it is just ginned up. It's just ginned up mess. And so we have to fight back and call it out. And so the minute that somebody on the from the GOP and what I call the Confederates and what they represent, we have to call it out and say, just call them a Confederate. And what does a Confederate represent? One, racism and separate and dividing and destroying this country. And all of them, and when that comes out, that's what you have to fight with them, and you have to tell the truth. There is no, CRT is just it's a ginned up subject. You can't ignore it because it gins up that population, the white supremacists and the Confederates on the GOP's side of the house. And so we have to call it out, and we have to go ahead.
Now, I'm going to step in and say, I see Don Scott is watching, Delegate Don Scott, and I would encourage anybody, his latest speech on the floor.
Oh, yes. Powerful.
If you haven't seen it, you might want to go back and check it out. And Don, if you're still watching, maybe you can put in where people can go probably to pick up that speech. And since we're talking about Black history, I mean, he got up there and gave everybody in there, especially those who don't know about the history. We talk about who built the White House and the Capitol. Same thing happened here in Virginia about who the Capitol. And that's why he was talking about, as he walks the halls, he can see the ghosts of, our ancestors all through there. So you might want to look at that. That's a powerful speech. And I thank you, Don, and that's one of several speeches he has made.
Yes.
Just letting people know. And that's something we haven't seen from some of our officials, just telling it like it is.
Yes.
Some of the people in there need to hear. And he got
yeah, and so much so the governor had to need to go over and meet with him personally. And I would like Don to come on and tell us, what did the governor have to say to him when he went over to meet with him personally after he gave that magnificent speech on the floors of the General Assembly?
Yeah, we will definitely get them on. It's just been a scheduling thing, trying to get them. They're busy, and I just wanted to make sure that they have all the time. Don has all the time to do what he needs to do in there, and the session will be ending soon. I don't know,
Yes.
Leah, is this the long session or the short?
Oh, goodness, you got me this time.
I think this is the long one. I'm not sure, but anyway.
Yeah.
Either way, it's not much more time, so we need to let them do what they do. And we'll try to get them on afterwards, and they can tell us, update us on everything that happened, and we can talk about some of those speeches he made. But powerful speeches.
And they got to be said. It has to be said. And we're talking about Black History Month just ending up, and but Black history is American history, and that's the bottom line. And they cannot whitewash it, and they can burn as many books as they can, but it's a made up issue, and they can't stop it. They can't stop it. We're going to have to teach it, if not in our high schools and elementary schools and whatever, and teach it at home, and talk to our kids, and because we'll have a better society that if we know and they know this is how our country got to this point. And if you don't teach history, and you will repeat this history, because the Confederates on the other side want to turn back the clock to the 50s, to go back to as far as separate but equal. And we have a Supreme Court that is bent on not looking at or going against all precedents. So all bets are off. And if we don't get out here and vote in 22 and 24 and in the off years, if we don't get out here and vote, that's why we get just like this set of folks we have up here in Richmond now, with the governor, lieutenant governor, and the and this AG. Look at the damage they're doing to this great state.
And Colonel,
carpetbaggers. We have 3 carpetbaggers in office now.
And truly, what you're saying takes me back to when I took my Sankofa kids to Memphis, and we went to the Underground Railroad, to one of the slave houses of the Underground Railroad. And in that house, they had a saying on the wall, and it has stuck with me forever, is that until the lion can share his story, the hunter will always be the hero. And that's what we have to realize. If we don't share our story, if we don't tell our story, as in Deuteronomy, when the Israelites were commanded to pass that history down to your children, pass it down, let them know who they are. And it has to start at an early age. So if we don't start telling our story, they're going to keep putting it in something that it does not exist in, and casting it away. I'm so proud of recently. I went last week to a program at Brighton Elementary School, and I was really pleased and proud to see the history lesson that those children shared on that stage at Brighton Elementary School. And glad to see that some places and in some of these institutions, the children are being taught about their history. And they're not getting just the Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King and James, and Carver and all those folks. But those people made an impressive impact on our history. But there's so many others that our children don't get to hear about. There's so many others that they need to hear about. There's so many others today who are making an impact upon our history. And our children need to learn about these individuals. Miss Kizzy, I always get a name wrong. Kismet's the one who did the COVID vaccination.
Yes.
There's so many who are making an impact, and we need to let our children see that not only did we make an impact years ago, but we're continuing to make an impact on today.
Yeah, I can't help but think about, and Leah, you're right. Once you plant that seed and cultivate it, it's going to grow.
Exactly.
And when they get older, they'll have those memories in their head.
Mhm.
And curiosity will keep them learning, wanting
Keep
to
them learning.
more about their heritage. And I can't help but remember, think about the times being at IC Norcom, and it was a different time. But even during Martin Luther King Day, before it was a holiday and everything, some of the teachers put a record player in the hall.
Mhm.
So even when we were changing classes, they had a speech on. So we walking down changing classes, just hearing his speech. So, and you wonder about that, but I think about how smart they were to do that too. Because that thing stuck in.
They had to be innovative back then because they didn't have all of the things that they have now. So they had to use that innovation. They had to use that knowledge to bring it to us in a different way because it wasn't in the books, but they provided us with the information, although it wasn't there,
And a different thing too, they could deviate from their curriculum,
which they can't do now.
They can't do now. They have to,
Right.
and many of them did, and you might be in English class, and that take you through some history.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
with English, So a different thing, but it's going to come down because I know all of us in our households, we heard, we got history at home, but we had the luxury of getting it at school as well. So those things stuck with me. But we're at the point now where it's definitely, how many households now you think they sit around and talk about Black history?
Very few. Very few.
Other than Black history, where you can't help but avoid it. I mean, but all year round, just bringing up people, just like we have 6 Blacks on the council now. How many young people know
who they are?
The first 2 Black council members we had in the city, Raymond Turner and Dr. Holly.
That's right.
How many know that even Archie Elliott was a city councilman
That's right.
before he was a judge? We had 3 ladies, Marlene Randall, of course, Louise Lucas and Lisa Lucas. And that's not enough over the years, as long as Portsmouth's been here. But, we've had all these Black councilmen at one point and in holding positions. Wayne Orton was city manager at one time. Way back before that was something that you probably didn't think you would see. A wealth of local history that needs to be taught. And it's not going to be taught in our schools. Now, like that program, I saw the little young fella doing a Martin Luther King speech.
Did you see that little guy? Oh my God, he was so amazing. And he wasn't reading. It wasn't reading.
He tied Portsmouth in it.
He did. He said, how can I talk about American history and not talk about Portsmouth history?
Yeah, man, I was blown away by that. And he's gonna always be, I love to see where he ends up.
And Lisa Graham, we can't forget Ray Smith. Ray served on the school board with me. So Ray has a special place in my heart as well. But let me just give you another little analogy here. When I made my trip over to Ghana, and we were going for a name changing ceremony, and the chief met with us the day before. He asked us a few things about ourselves. And then the next morning we met him by the water at the break of day. And he said, these are the names that you should have had before you left the motherland. He says, he gave us a drink of water. He said, this is water. He gave us a drink of wine. He said, this is wine. He said, let no man fool you into believing that water is wine or wine is water. Know your history. Know your history. He said, once you know your history, no man can fool you. No man can tell you anything that is untrue. You know, so you need to know your history so that when people start telling you things, I look at my little Sankofa children sometimes and we'll be places and people be saying things and they say, Miss Leah, that's not what happened. We were at a Black History program and they were giving the program. My kids say, Miss Leah, that's not the right information.
Yeah.
And we know, you know, so you begin to question the things that people put before you when you know your history. But you have to know your history in order to question it. Otherwise, you'll accept whatever they give to you. And by the way, they gave me the name Afua Ajiawa, female born on a Friday with the strength and vitality of an eagle. How about that?
It's funny, just going back to, they don't want to offend certain people with the true history of slavery, but they have no problem offending the Native Americans.
Thank you.
About how they, what's that? What they call that walk that all the Indians had to do when they finally round them up and they made that trail walk.
Yes.
I forgot what they called it, but after they had fought so hard, and they gave these people names of savages, and all they were doing was trying to protect their land.
Their land.
And the John Waynes and he's fictional, but General Custer and all those people. So they're telling those stories.
Yes.
Than anybody. They telling stories about us dropping bombs in Japan. What about the Japanese Americans?
And what about those that they put into concentration camps when the bombing took place,
So are they going to ban all that information as well? So, it's just crazy. And it's like I said, it's going to be up to us to make sure we teach our kids and also fight against policies that they try to put in. Stop all this stuff.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? You can even take it back even further, and you look at some of the policies and what they're talking about when they say, for instance, the banning of books. Hitler banned a lot of books and did the same thing. And mask mandates and anti-mask mandates, and then some of the people in the Confederate side of the ledger are talking about tying that to if you had to wear the star on your shoulder. And so it goes back to race and power and this assault on women. We talk about history since this Black History, and I'll tie it into Women's History Month. And all these would-be entrepreneurs that are out there. We don't talk about history of people like, say, C.J. Walker. The first, I think she was the first Black female millionaire.
Madam C.J.
Yes, Madam C.J. And how she put that out was, and she empowered other women to go out there to be entrepreneurs and to make money. So she shared her gift and how she did things with others. That same model was used as, say, with Amway. Amway had the same kind of pyramid kind of thing that people go out and sell goods. But that was the basis of how C.J. Walker did her thing. And so they take what we've given, America has taken from us, and use it for their own good. And so, but we have to teach history, because if you don't teach the history, our kids will continue to grow up clueless and will be susceptible to the mess that they're putting out. And it is a mess.
It is indeed. And the fact that not only the teaching of the history, but now this darn hotline where parents can call up and say, the teacher taught my child something I don't want them to learn. I mean, The community need to just flood the hotline with, you know, because I mean, if a teacher's put in that position, you're really challenged with your abilities to teach, knowing that you can say one word, and somebody can call that hotline and tell the governor, I don't appreciate what this person is teaching, and then that person's job is in jeopardy.
It goes back to what I just said, banning of books. This is the same thing that Hitler did.
You're right.
It's the same thing, and it's out of his playbook. And it started with Brother Trump, and the same thing that he did with propaganda and some of the other things. And the GOP Confederates have taken this on, and we're living in that piece of history. Our democracy is at stake because, you know, we have a governor, a carpetbagger governor here, and is instituted Hitler-like soft programs like this this hotline, and we need to call it out and call it whenever you see him. You just look at where he's at, and you won't see any minorities other than the janitor standing behind him. So he is he is preaching to his constituency. I watched,
he's trying to run for president in 2024.
Yes, he's already done it.
he's trying to.
Yeah, I am surprised he wasn't down in Florida at KPAC.
Yeah.
And I watched some of the KPAC over the weekend just to see what they were talking about. And I say, the official word was CPAC, but I call it KPAC because that was a Klan political action committee. I watched some of it, and
I couldn't watch it.
You have to look at it just to see what the other side is talking about.
I tried to, and I saw just a little bit of what's the guy named that one of Trump's boys. He said about 3 sentences, and I turned it off.
Yeah, well, I watched it off and on, and it was all filled with religion, USA flag, all this patriotism stuff. And Don Jr. got up and talked about they were an inclusive party when you couldn't even find a black janitor down there, and it was filled with none but propaganda and lies upon lies upon lies, and it made me sick to my stomach that they could do it. But in America, they have a First Amendment right that they can do it.
Yeah, Colonel, you mentioned propaganda, and you referenced Hitler and banning books. A little bit of history too. You go back to the war with Japan. They had a lady called Tokyo Rose.
Tokyo Rose, yes.
She used to come on the airways, perfect English, and try to talk to the soldiers with that nice soft voice, and throw that propaganda on them and tell them you out there fighting for America, and America doesn't care for you and stuff. And you get some of them weary soldiers out there, hearing that voice, and that was the reason they had a woman's voice and her out there, and she spreaded that throughout the whole war. I don't know if she turned anybody around or softened anybody up, but they hit them. They hit the soldiers and anybody who else was listening with Tokyo Rose. I mean, they just interfered on the radio airways. They just, whether you wanted to listen to it or not, it might have been one piece, one airway open, and she came on there. You're on a submarine listening to Tokyo Rose. So that was propaganda. So I said that to say that's what they use now. It's just like you say, you spread stuff, say it enough, and to most people it's going to be true, even though it's dead.
Well, you know what? It's a good point that you said that. And we have the modern day state-run TV, meaning the channel of Fox. And that is nothing but a propaganda channel in America. But they have a media rights to say this, but we should not, for the advertisers on that station, we shouldn't buy from them. We should boycott them. Don't go out and buy. I don't go to Home Depot, for instance, because Home Depot is a big supporter of what? Of the Orange Man down there in Mar-a-Lago. So I vote with and I make sure I go and vote, but I also take my dollars out of people, out of companies that don't want to see me thrive. I use them as an example.
And I think that knowing your Black history and keeping up with it all year round will also help you in your decision making when you're looking at candidates, because
Yes.
you have to go back and look at the way things went up until this point to sort of say, wow, this kind of familiar. That happened back then. I should be learning. You know what they say, if you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to
repeat it. That's for sure.
So you have to know what happened back here in order to make wise decisions going forward. So that's important. I see what Wesley Van mentioned, that who remembers community
schools
and community and schools all work together. And that's so true. I mean, that's when the PTAs were really strong and
exactly.
You know, like I always say, some meetings I wish my dad wouldn't go because because he was going to get some, not so good news. But those PTA meetings will be packed with parents, and I don't know if we ever get back to that where you have that kind of connection between the community and the schools. But if enough people see the need for that, I guess we need to do that.
Well, a lot of that went by the wayside when they passed during George Bush II passed the leave all the children behind.
No child left behind.
Well, leave all the children behind.
Okay.
Terminology, because were tests, and it took out most of the critical thinking of this country, and so now we're dumbing down our education, and it's part of policy. If we keep people dumb, they stay in power. And the world's caught up with us, and as far as educational wise, and we're suffering. Our democracy is suffering.
The world has surpassed us in education. When you look at all these other countries and see how well they're doing in the math and science, we are so far behind. Is frightening, And also, you look at the brain drain, in as much as them putting those immigration laws into place, and people who were coming here who were bringing some innovation with them, they're trying to keep them out of the country. So we seem to be in a lose-lose situation here in the country.
Well, you know what? And we're going to see a piece of history happen now. And we're talking about immigration. And we saw the Haitians where we always stopped them at the border coming across there from Florida. Anybody of color that is anti-immigration. When the Mexicans or South Americans want to come up through Mexico, we want to ban them and put an army out there. So I'm waiting to see when, now that the Ukrainians need to be relocated, how they'll open the flood doors to have them, to allow them to come into this country. And you'll see the big difference. And so it exposes the disparities and the thought pattern of the Confederate Party in the GOP.
Wesley Van says, remember Karl Rove wrote a book about the dumbing of America when he got George Bush elected.
Yeah.
But
I like they say, all politics is local. So I guess we have to start here, because have to start at home, because it's something that it's a place where we can really be effective or make some change. What do you all think? What do you think we need to do starting locally? Well, the first thing we have to do is vote and make sure we are aware and educated, informed about the people who we vote for. So we won't have to be sitting back for 4 years and say, wow, why did I do that? But make sure you know enough about the people that's voting. And we started to see people come out now and
James, you remember when Miss Lucy Overton was alive? We used to do we used to do voter education. we would go into the communities and we would share information to the voters as to who the candidates are who were running. And we put that education out there in the community. There's no more voter education. It's just now, you know, whoever can get the message out the loudest, get the people elected.
Yeah, and it's so strange, Leah, with all the social media and opportunities for people to you know, to learn about people who are running. If you're walking around the polls, you still see people coming up to voting and not
The last state don't know.
what
They don't know who they're voting for.
Walk in there, don't know, well, who is this? You know, and that's really upsetting to me. It's not so much somebody doing it, but the number of people that do it.
Yeah.
Say, well, but the number of people that walk up there, and that's why it's so important to have those people out there. But you know, what kind of lesson is that? The day of somebody hands you a sheet of paper and say, vote for this person. The only way I look at it is it verifies the people that already have the knowledge that that's who I should vote for. But if you come up there and you have no knowledge who to vote for, just handing you that paper is just giving you an opportunity to vote someone you have no idea what they're going to do. A lot of times it turns out we put somebody in there that probably shouldn't be there at the time. It wasn't their time.
And it's crucial. The 2022 election is crucial. It's crucial locally. It's crucially on a national level. It is crucial that we get out there and we vote and we learn who's saying what and who's doing what, so we can vote intelligently in the next election. It's going to make a difference, and you know, and you see, it's going to be a whole lot more propaganda going on because the population of the whites in our country is going down, and so the only way that they're able to sway you into voting for them is through cheating and lying. And we got a lot of cheating and lying going on in the political process.
Yes, and that is so true. And then and they'll pick us off and they'll put a pseudo black politician.
Herschel Walker, put Herschel Walker in Georgia. He can't even give he can't even construct a sentence. But it doesn't matter their level of intelligence. It's just that they got the skin color. So you don't vote for somebody just because they're black. You got to see what they're bringing to the table. Being black is not a criteria for being elected. What are you bringing to the table when you come?
And there's Herschel Walkers all across the country. And they'll bring them out and they'll run a black candidate against another black candidate to split the vote. And because all they need is a small slither because we don't go out and vote against the numbers that we should. And they can sneak right on in there. And that's why you see Herschel Walker, or a matter of fact, even Uncle Tim Scott down there in South Carolina. Is running for re-election, and he's also out there saying Donald Trump said I might be on his running mate in 24. And that is a way to split the black vote. But Tim Scott has not done anything for anybody, not even the people of South Carolina, since he's been up there.
Let me just say one thing here. Wesley Van asked about get the parents and schools to work together. Let me just explain to Wesley, here in the city of Portsmouth, through the Title I program, Miss Laretha Steels and Miss Renee, oh God, Renee is going to beat me down. I know her family forever. But anyway, Renee Hales, they have the parent liaison program in the city of Portsmouth, where they have individuals who are hired in each school, and their job is to build the relationship between the parents and the school. They have numerous activities in the schools where parents are invited in to participate, and they're doing a wonderful job in bridging that gap between the parents and the schools. I just had to slip that in. I'm sorry, Colonel, because I saw it come up on our Facebook page. So there is a program here to bridge that gap between the schools and the parents.
And they were Portsmouth Coffee Talk guests. So
Yes, they were. Yes, they
go to
were.
our YouTube page and pull up that video and watch as they explain what they do. So they were. So we try to get people on here to share information that might help.
Right. You know, we're coming on the 7:35 hour.
Yeah.
That Leah's let us know subliminally.
So as we wind down, we want to thank everyone as we end and let you know as we end the official recognition of Black History Month. Let's make sure that we celebrate and learn and be aware of Black history all year round. And I think that's been a theme of a lot of people, lately. Even though we have this Black History Month, that's good, but we have to teach and learn. Even us, it's things I'm learning everything about our Black history. And before we go, Leah, your group, how would people get involved with your group? I know you have a capacity, or someone wanted to start. I mean, do you have different branches or something of the,
No, right now we're just in Portsmouth. And we are currently meeting on the first and third Saturdays from 1 until 3. We were previously, before COVID, we were meeting 3 Saturdays out of the month. But not only do we teach Black history, but we also have math and English tutoring as well. And we are also into mindfulness now, because our kids need to be able to realize that you have to be mindful in all things that you do. So first and third Saturdays from 1 to 3, they can contact me on Facebook page between the ages of 7 and 14, between the ages of 7 and 14. And prayerfully, we will again be able to take our children on historical trips, because not only do we want to read about these places and people, but we want to be able to visit, touch, taste, and feel and see so that these kids can have an understanding. One thing I must say, when I used to travel for the Pines, I used to see white families during school year who would take their children out of school and they would visit places like Mount Rushmore. They would, all the historical, when I went to Yellowstone, they would have their kids at Yellowstone. So when these kids get into school and they're studying about Mount Rushmore, they're studying about Yellowstone, they have been there. And it's easier for them to talk about it. It's easier for them to learn about it because they've been there. Our kids need more exposure. Now, long ago, we used to take kids to Jamestown and Williamsburg. We don't even take them to Jamestown and Williamsburg anymore. But you got to let the children see and appreciate our rich history. Take them to the places where they can see and understand. I know how emotional my kids were when we went to 16th Street Baptist Church and they saw the area where those little girls were bombed in that church. They saw where the kids were rounded up in the park. Can't remember the name of the park right now, it's leaving me, and they were handcuffed and brought the dogs out and brought the water hose out. First time I took my kids to Selma, one of my little kids on the bus, because we studied about Selma. We always study about the place before we go. And when we got to the bridge in Selma, and one of my little girls said, "Miss Leah, they're not going to bring the water hose and the dogs on us, are they?" And I said, "No, baby, it's a different time. They did not have water hose and dogs, but you will get to march across that Pettus Bridge." Yes. So it brings me great joy to know that and during the 25th anniversary of the March on Washington, I took kids across the bridge. The march across the Selma Bridge. And then for the 50th anniversary, I took some kids across the march on the Pettus Bridge. So these kids have been there, they've seen it, they've touched it, they've tasted it. I just got to give this little point. When we went to Louisiana to the Whitney Plantation, and one of my kids was on the bus and she says, "Miss Leah, I just have a taste for a beignet." I said, "What do you know about a beignet?" She heard about it on The Princess and the Frog. So I had our driver to stop us in Louisiana. We stopped in New Orleans and I took them to the famous place and got them some beignets. And then we took them for a Creole meal in Louisiana. Our kids have to be exposed. They have to be exposed. They got to see. There's so much to see about their history out here in the world. And you don't have to go that far because there's a lot of history right here in Virginia. And if you go over to the eastern shores, where I hope to take them this year, they have the Harriet Tubman Trail over there on the eastern shore. You know, you go to Beaufort, South Carolina, you see Harriet Tubman came through Beaufort. They're giving the Bill of Monument for Harriet Tubman in Beaufort, South Carolina. There's a lot of history, and we just need to expose our babies. I get excited when I talk about exposing our babies to history, and I just look forward to, and let me just say, I'm just, history gets me all wound up. I'm sorry, y'all. I was just telling my babies last week about our rich connection with Liberia. When you go to Liberia, West Africa, a lot of places are named after Virginians. You know, I told the kids when the Virginians, when they left here going back to Africa, they went to Sierra Leone. When they got to Sierra Leone, mosquitoes were killing them with malaria. So they got back on the boat and they went over to Liberia because Liberia was higher land. And when they got there, the Liberians welcomed them to West Africa. The first president in West Africa was a Virginian, a Black Virginian by the name of Mr. Roberts. He was the first president of Liberia. And so we have a rich history with Liberia. And my prayer is that one day I will be able to take some of my babies over there and let them see for themselves the connection that we have with Liberia and other places in the world. That's my segment for the moment.
Yes, indeed. How nice it would be when you come back, go back to school after the summer, and the teacher asks you, what do you do over the summer? And you can say, well, I went to Jamestown, and they learned more than what we learned about the Nia, the Pia, and the Santa Maria. How about that? But you know, they can get the 1619 experience, you know, what happened at Jamestown, what happened in Williamsburg, and all those other places. You know, you need to know about, you know, the whipping posts that were downtown Portsmouth.
Downtown Portsmouth.
Along with all the other history. It's a lot of great history. And we have to hold our parents and ourselves responsible, and all these different groups that we are forming, you know, along with creating an atmosphere for them to play basketball, create an atmosphere for them to learn.
Most crucial.
Some of these kids that haven't traveled outside of Portsmouth.
Exactly.
You know, expose them to what, and the more you're exposed to, the more you know about your heritage, the prouder you are as a Black American. I mean, it really affected me the more I learned about it. My self-esteem and self-worth also was elevated, just to know people came behind me and how resilient they were under a lot of pressure. And, you know, we get, you know, so we need to do that. So, any last word, Colonel?
No, you know, you talk, Leo's talking about about marching over the bridge and seeing how they turn on the water and the dogs and like that. In a similar way, we saw that after the George Floyd. And so history does repeat itself.
It does. It does.
You have, you know, somebody at the top of the food chain, the orange man, and running our federal government. And so that's why voting counts.
It does count.
You never know who's up there. Well, we knew who he was. We knew he was a racist coming in, but we thought that people said, oh, he'll never be that bad. He'll change. If the people show you who they are,
believe them.
Know who they are. And so let's not repeat the mistakes of the past.
Uh-oh, James giving us the signal.
Yep. Okay, that's it.
All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today as we talked about Black history, a little bit about local history. And join us every Monday morning on Portsmouth Coffee Talk at 6:30 a.m. on WGPL 1350 Facebook Live, and later on our YouTube channel. We love you all, and thank you for following us, and continue to follow us and support us. Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
our community,
in our future.
God bless you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all on Facebook for listening and
Yes, it was.
participating. Wesley Van always got some great comments. Love you
Yes.
all. Love you all. Thank you so very much. Like and share our page.
Yes.
Go off with a little bit of music.